in our sex life together.
Text messages and email chains and BlackBerry messages from 2007, from 2009, where Cassie is confessing her love to Diddy, or I'm a very lucky woman. Diddy respond, I love you so much, it makes me cry. And then Cassie writing back, you hungry pop. But I'm thinking, just from my perspective, that around those time frames, she was still relatively young. For the most part, she was in her early 20s.
What secrets is Sean Diddy Combs trying to bury as the first explosive week of Cassie's lawsuit sends shockwaves through the industry? Damning revelations about so-called freak-offs have come to light, and Diddy's frantic efforts to muzzle Cassie could be the biggest clue yet to the dark truths he's desperate to keep hidden.
She has been very forthcoming in answering these questions. She's showing she is asking for a freak off, or she's, asking, about just more intimate details from her relationship with him. Because to your point, Jesse, a lot of this stuff, some of these messages that we did see in court, Cassie say, Pop, I really miss you. And Diddy responding in these messages, me too, baby. Damn, I can't wait until I see you. You see a 2010 message where Cassie says, so you hung up. It's like, at all, I know you have 3 minutes, because, around this time, he is running a bunch of businesses. He's going to board meetings. He's traveling across the country. But it seems like, Cassie, from her point of view, just by reading these messages, that you could kind of tell that she was just somebody, at least from my perspective, somebody that was young and in love and just wanted her boyfriend around her that time.
She wrote to Combs in an email, in order for me to be more open with the things we do in bed, I need to feel safe, like home, like this is my husband, and this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive sexual.
The first week of Cassie's bombshell lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs has already rocked the music industry to its core. But this isn't just about celebrity scandal. It's about the harrowing claims of abuse, control, and exploitation that Cassie has finally brought into the light. Once known for her rise as a singer and model, and for her high-profile relationship with Diddy, Cassie is now speaking out, and what she's saying is both chilling and deeply revealing. At the heart of her allegations is something she calls freak-offs, a term that's quickly become synonymous with the darker side of Diddy's alleged behavior. According to Cassie, these weren't just isolated or consensual events. They were orchestrated sessions where she claims she was pressured or outright forced to engage in sexual acts with other individuals, all under Diddy's direction. The details are graphic, but they serve a purpose: to paint a disturbing portrait of a man allegedly using his influence to break down her autonomy and exert psychological control. These claims have ignited far more than tabloid curiosity. They've triggered a deeper reckoning with the unchecked power dynamics that still thrive in the entertainment world. Cassie isn't just telling her story, she's backing it up with receipts. Her legal team didn't show up to court empty-handed. They brought precise examples, descriptive testimony, and a timeline of repeated behaviors that, if proven true, suggest a deeply manipulative and toxic environment that stretched over more than a decade. According to the lawsuit, these freak-offs weren't rare or one-off episodes. They were a recurring tool of coercion, designed to humiliate and dominate. Cassie describes being locked into a cycle of fear, emotional dependency, and psychological warfare. This wasn't just about sex, she claims. It was about eroding her sense of identity and self-worth. The courtroom documents outline a pattern where she was allegedly isolated, intimidated, and repeatedly pushed past her boundaries in the name of Diddy's control. And if Diddy's initial reaction to these claims is any indication, he's deeply shaken. His legal and PR teams have been scrambling behind the scenes, attempting to downplay the severity of the accusations, but the damage may already be done. The case has cracked open a conversation that's long been suppressed: the dark side of fame, and how those at the top often exploit the silence of those beneath them. For years, Diddy cultivated an image of himself as a music mogul, a cultural icon, a self-made man at the pinnacle of success. But Cassie's account pulls back the curtain on that persona, suggesting that behind the glamour was a man allegedly obsessed with control and willing to violate boundaries to maintain it. Her lawsuit doesn't just challenge Diddy's legacy, it puts the entire structure that enabled him under a microscope. Already, industry voices are calling this a defining moment. Cultural critics, legal experts, and advocacy groups see Cassie's courage as a spark for broader change, perhaps even a long overdue reckoning in music and entertainment. These aren't just personal accusations. They're indictments of a culture that often protects the powerful while silencing the vulnerable. And make no mistake, the fallout could be catastrophic for Diddy. If these allegations hold up under legal scrutiny, his empire, spanning music, fashion, liquor brands, and more, could begin to unravel. The man who built an identity around being untouchable may soon find himself facing the consequences of years of alleged misconduct. Cassie's legal team has also made it clear this is just the beginning. They've promised more evidence, more witnesses, and more shocking disclosures in the weeks ahead. If what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg, the revelations still to come could be even more damning. 1 week into the legal war, the message is clear. The stakes are enormous, and Cassie is not backing down. Her willingness to confront someone as powerful as Diddy is already being hailed as a watershed moment in the fight for accountability and entertainment. But with Diddy's team undoubtedly preparing for a fierce counterattack, the road ahead promises to be intense and unpredictable. Whatever Diddy's next move is, it may reveal more than any testimony could, about what he's protecting, and just how much he truly stands to lose.
His attorney essentially using these text messages to say to her, well, listen, you again were a willing participant, you continue this relationship with him. And the defense is highlighting that through those text messages and through the conversations Ms. Ventura has been having. But it also goes both ways, because also in those text messages, which there are some ones for the prosecution here, she discusses how he has been physically violent towards her. They discuss the freak-offs and a number of other things that really go to show that there was some sort of physical violence within the relationship, threats of force and things like that, which the government essentially has to prove.
I have felt profound anger that she has been subjected to sitting in. We did not. Over the past 5 days, the world has gotten to witness the strength and bravery of my wife, freeing herself of her past. There has been speculation online surrounding how it must feel for me to sit there and listen to my wife's testimony. I have felt so many things sitting there. I have felt tremendous pride and overwhelming love for Cassie. I have felt profound anger that she has been subjected to sitting in front of a person who tried to break her. So, to him and all of those who helped him along the way, her spirit nor her smile that lights up every room, you did not break the souls of a mother who gives the best hugs and plays the silliest games with our little girls. You did not break the woman who has made me a better man. This week has been extremely challenging, but also remarkably empowering and healing for me. I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from abuse and fear. For me, the more I heal, the more I can remember. And the more I can remember, the more...
When the powerful feel cornered, their instinct is often to seize control. And in the wake of Cassie's explosive lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs is showing every sign of a man scrambling to do just that. Since the allegations surfaced, insiders say Diddy has been pulling every lever he can to stifle the narrative and protect what's left of his crumbling public image. But in doing so, he may be revealing more about what he's trying to hide than he realizes. According to those close to the case, Diddy's team went into immediate damage control mode. Legal analysts suggest he's been working aggressively behind closed doors, possibly leaning on confidential settlements and legal intimidation to keep Cassie from revealing more. The first move? Push for a hush-hush deal. A quick settlement would lock away any further testimony, halt public court proceedings, and, most importantly for Diddy, prevent the media from analyzing each damning detail in open court. But that tactic raises a troubling question. Why is he so eager to shut this down? What truth lies beyond what's already been exposed? Behind the scenes, sources describe a frantic campaign to manage public perception. Rather than confront the allegations head-on, Diddy's camp appears to be relying on strategic silence, a well-worn PR strategy where silence is meant to starve the media cycle of new material and encourage public fatigue. In essence, ride it out, wait for the next celebrity scandal to take over, and avoid giving the story fresh legs. As more damning allegations surface, Diddy's lack of a direct response isn't being interpreted as composure, it's being read as calculation. People are asking, what is he really trying to avoid? What's hiding beneath the surface? One answer may lie in his long-rumored use of non-disclosure agreements. According to multiple reports, NDAs have long been a staple of Diddy's inner circle, allegedly used to muzzle potential whistleblowers and silence stories before they ever reached the press. Former collaborators claim it was an open secret. Get too close to Diddy, and you'd be asked to sign something. Not for your safety, but for his. Cassie's voice broke through the wall of silence, despite what many speculate were efforts to keep her quiet long before she ever filed suit. And now, her defiance is shattering the illusion of invincibility that once surrounded Diddy. Her lawsuit echoes other notorious Hollywood takedowns, most notably Harvey Weinstein, who used NDAs and legal threats to bury the truth for decades. But once the silence was broken, the house of cards collapsed. Diddy may be playing from the same script, but the world is no longer looking the other way. Public opinion is turning. People are no longer asking if the allegations are shocking. They're asking why Diddy, a billionaire with vast resources and a decades-long legacy, appears so desperate to smother one woman's claims. What skeletons are rattling in the background? What truths are so damning that he might risk his entire empire to keep them buried? These are the questions Cassie's lawsuit has unleashed. And with each legal maneuver Diddy makes, suspicions only deepen. What makes this moment even more precarious for him is Cassie's apparent confidence. Despite the reported legal threats, despite efforts to discredit her or pressure her into silence, she's pushing forward. That kind of resolve often comes with something powerful behind it: evidence. Those close to the case suggest that Cassie might have even more proof waiting in the wings. If that's true, Diddy's campaign to shut her down isn't just futile, it's on the brink of implosion. This case is no longer just about two individuals in a toxic relationship. It's a broader referendum on how power is abused, how silence is bought, and how far someone will go to keep their secrets safe. And Cassie's refusal to be intimidated is reverberating far beyond the courtroom. It's becoming a symbol of resistance in an industry long plagued by abuse hidden behind luxury and fame. So the question now isn't just what Diddy is hiding, it's how far he's willing to go to keep it hidden. And perhaps even more critically, how far Cassie is willing to go to bring it all to light. Her stand may just be the beginning of a cultural shift that holds powerful figures accountable, not behind closed doors, but in full view of the world.
Did not have as hard of a job this week as I thought they would.
Yeah. And you're right to point out that the onus is on the prosecutors. The defense can simply stand up and have nothing to say. It's totally up to the prosecutor. So let's move to that side of the courtroom. I had a judge on earlier this morning who said that she doesn't see a racketeering conviction. I reminded her we're a week into an 8-week trial, so there's more to come. But what do you see as it relates to that specific charge and what we heard from the Ventura testimony and just the earliest part of Don Richard's testimony?
That I don't see it yet. That doesn't mean we won't see it, but because Ms. Ventura has been promoted as the star witness, I don't think it's established there. And here's why. I think that there's a good bit of time being spent on domestic abuse. And while the domestic abuse is hideous, it is horrible, there's no justifying it, he's not charged with it, Victor. So they're using it in order to show that there was this environment of coercion, but there's several things that Ms. Ventura said that lean the other way. So whether it was the initial questioning where she said the reason why she started doing the freak-offs was because she loved him, whether it was her testimony that she started to view it really was like a job, that she was the person who was making the arrangements. She was the person who was contacting the travel agent for the escorts. She was the person who was selecting the different escorts based on certain parameters. None of that testimony necessarily goes to what the prosecution is hoping to prove. But here's the other thing I'll point out. The jury may be looking at Ms. Ventura as a co-conspirator, as a willing participant in a criminal enterprise. That doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't to try to prove that Ms. Ventura was forced into an action that I think they can get their proof on where Mr. Combs is concerned, whether Ms. Ventura was involved by force or whether she was involved by choice. It would still be a crime if they can use the rest of the time they have in this trial to show that the racketeering and the sex trafficking actually
Cassie's battle isn't just a fight for justice. It's a bold stand against a system designed to silence women like her. In a world where most would be pressured into submission, offered a discreet settlement, or simply scared into silence, she's chosen a different path, full-throttle defiance. Her unwavering refusal to retreat, even as she faces down one of the music industry's most powerful moguls, is not just courageous, it's revolutionary. For years, Sean "Diddy" Combs has embodied the archetype of the untouchable celebrity, an empire builder, image curator, and industry titan. But Cassie is exposing the cracks in that glossy facade. She's showing that power built on fear and manipulation doesn't always get the final word. And in doing so, she's inspiring more than just headlines. She's inspiring change. What makes her defiance so compelling is that it comes amid what insiders say is an intense campaign of intimidation. Legal threats, character smears, and whispers aimed at discrediting her have reportedly surrounded her since she stepped forward. Yet she remains unshaken. Her silence has been broken, and she's choosing to keep speaking, loudly and clearly. That choice carries weight far beyond her own story. In an industry long accustomed to silence and complicity, Cassie's voice is echoing through Hollywood's gilded halls. She's not following the script laid out for victims of the powerful. Instead, she's rewriting the narrative in real time, exposing uncomfortable truths about control, abuse, and the way power shields itself. But make no mistake, there's a cost to this kind of bravery. Taking on someone of Diddy's stature is not without serious risk. Legal battles don't just play out in courtrooms, they unfold in the public eye, in the media, in the whisper networks of the industry. Cassie's career, her reputation, even her personal safety, everything is on the line. Doors that were once open could quietly close. Future opportunities may disappear behind a veil of polite rejection. That's because for Cassie, this isn't just a legal showdown, it's a moral stand. And it's one that's already sending ripples through the industry. Whispers from inside Hollywood suggest that Cassie's courage is emboldening others. More alleged survivors, once reluctant to come forward, are reportedly speaking out privately, some considering public action. The culture of stay quiet and we'll protect you is losing its grip. This isn't just about Diddy anymore. It's about the larger machinery that enabled figures like him to operate unchecked for so long. It's about dismantling the toxic norms that protected abusers as long as they made money, stayed relevant, and controlled the story. Public opinion is already shifting. People are beginning to scrutinize the entertainment world more critically, asking what's been hidden behind its polished surface. When celebrities face credible allegations, the question becomes not, can they recover, but should they? And that's the power of Cassie's stand. She's challenging the very structure that has protected the elite for generations. There's also growing speculation that Cassie's team has more evidence up its sleeve: records, messages, perhaps witnesses yet to testify. Legal insiders suggest that what's been revealed so far may be just the beginning. Her calm confidence in the face of escalating pressure hints at deeper truths still to come. And if those truths are as devastating as some believe, they could shake the foundations of Diddy's empire beyond repair. Cassie's actions are sending a message that no amount of money, fame, or influence can permanently suppress the truth. She's reminding survivors everywhere that even the most powerful figures can be challenged, that the narrative can shift, and that silence is no longer the price of survival. As Diddy braces for what's still to come, the stakes for him are monumental. His legacy, built over decades, hangs in the balance. If this case reveals more damning details, his fall won't just be legal. It'll be symbolic. A collapse of the persona he so carefully cultivated, and a warning shot to others who believe power makes them immune. So as the trial unfolds, all eyes are not just on what Cassie is alleging, but on what this battle represents. It's not just one woman against one man. It's the fight to end an era of secrecy, to crack open the walls of intimidation that have long insulated the powerful. And if Cassie succeeds, it could signal the start of a new era, one where accountability is no longer optional. The real question now isn't whether Diddy can survive the fallout, but whether his legacy can withstand the truth.
So Dawn Richard, she faced a few questions on Friday. She'll be back on the stand on Monday. The difference, one of the differences here is that Cassie Ventura's civil case against
way. For instance, where the fact that Ms. Ventura's case, her civil case is already settled and the money's already been received, to me, that doesn't count against her. Perhaps it counts to her credibility because she chose to participate in the criminal trial anyway. However, where Ms. Richard is concerned, the fact that she is participating when, frankly, a criminal conviction may harm her ability to recover. It may harm Mr. Combs' ability to have the finances, the funding to be able to pay any recovery. So there are risks either way. I just think that as people are watching, they need to remember trials involve humans, and humans are messy. So you don't have any purity tests in terms of your witness is on the stand and has never done anything wrong, or your defendant is on the stand and has never done anything right. There's a lot going on both sides, and it really is up to the jury to ferret that out as long as they're given the right facts and the proper instructions from the judge about the law.
Monique Presley helping us understand it. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Joining me now is CNN senior legal analyst and former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Ellie Honig. Okay, Ellie, before it began, you wrote and said it's overwhelmingly likely to end in a conviction, but it is not a cakewalk. Do you want to take any of that back now that we're into the trial?
No, I'm going to stick with that exactly, Michael. So I think the first part of that is overwhelmingly likely to result in conviction because we saw the evidence this week. I think Cassie Ventura was an extremely effective witness for the prosecution. I think she came across as credible and sympathetic and realistic in the way she described what happened to her. I think that video that we've been showing is incredibly compelling and visceral. But here's why it's not a cakewalk. The prosecutor's job here is not to prove that Sean Combs was a bad guy, a terrible guy. In fact, the defense got up and said he is a bad guy. He did commit domestic.
And one final point, correct me if I'm wrong, but consent does not provide Diddy a defense here. But to the extent that they're seeking to show that she was a willing participant, it seems like they're just trying to make the whole situation and everybody involved part of some ugly enterprise and turn the jury off. Do I have it right?
Well, so two things. So on the sex trafficking charges, there's two variations of them. The more serious variation is by force, threats, or coercion. So if she consented, that would negate that. There's a less serious variation that's just interstate prostitution that carries a much lower penalty. To the larger point, the first count in this case is a racketeering conspiracy. I used to charge this all the time. Traditionally, that charge is used for mob families, for drug trafficking organizations. You can see it applied in other ways, but they need to show that Sean Combs was at the head of an organization, an organized group that committed multiple interconnected crimes for a common purpose. And I don't think Cassie Ventura's testimony just a troubled domestic relationship, but prosecutors are going to try to show that this was a larger pattern of organized activity. I think it's going to be tough. I think they're going to have a hard time making out that racketeering charge, but I do think they've introduced some powerful evidence that can set them on their way towards it.
I'm going to put a social media up and we'll explore it together, but I want to say something. Criminal enterprise, he's the only one at the table. Enterprise with whom?
Yeah. Look, it's a good point. Technically, you can have a racketeering enterprise of one. It is not ideal. I mean, when I charge federal racketeering cases, the fewest defendants I ever had was maybe 5 or 6. I had 25 defendant cases, and I think count on the defense trying to exploit that. They're going to say, folks, they're trying to build this up into more.
What happens when a carefully constructed empire, fortified by fame, money, and influence, begins to show cracks? That's likely the question haunting Diddy as the legal storm surrounding him intensifies. Cassie's lawsuit isn't just a legal battle. It's a potential wrecking ball aimed straight at the foundation of a brand he's spent decades cultivating. Diddy has long positioned himself not just as an artist, but as a force, a mogul with a golden touch. He didn't just make music. He turned his name into a commodity. From fashion to spirits, television to events, he extended his influence far beyond the studio. His persona was tightly controlled, elevated by partnerships with luxury labels and media conglomerates. But Cassie's allegations threatened to do what few scandals have: pull the curtain back on the man behind the myth. Brands value image as Much as innovation, and insiders are already whispering that some companies aligned with Diddy's ventures are quietly pulling away. Reputation matters in business, and when that reputation is dragged through the mud, association becomes risky. While no massive withdrawals have yet been made public, the signs are there: hesitations, reconsiderations, and strategic silence. It's a story the public has seen before. R. Kelly was once considered unstoppable, until the voices became too loud, the evidence too damning, and the backlash too fierce. Suddenly, his music vanished from major platforms, concert bookings dried up, and even former allies disavowed him. Harvey Weinstein's descent was even more dramatic. A fall from grace so swift it reshaped an entire industry's approach to accountability. Social media, as ever, is acting as the amplifier. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter, have turned Cassie's legal fight into a viral saga. Every leak, every statement, every court filing is dissected by millions in real time. It's no longer just a courtroom battle, it's a public referendum. And in the digital age, public sentiment can destroy legacies faster than any court ruling. That's what makes this moment so perilous for Diddy. The longer this plays out, the more fragile his empire becomes. It's not just about maintaining innocence, it's about surviving in a world where perception equals power. The specter of more evidence, texts, emails, possible witnesses, looms large. Cassie's legal team has hinted that the worst may be yet to come. If that proves true, any remaining loyalty from his corporate partners, collaborators, or even fans could evaporate. And while this legal dispute centers on his relationship with Cassie, the implications are much broader. These accusations spark a reevaluation of Diddy's entire career. What other stories haven't been told? Who else might come forward? That's the thing about public scrutiny. Once the spotlight hits, everything gets examined. No accolade, no endorsement, no image remains untouched. At this point, his brand stands on shaky ground. The stakes couldn't be higher. His future in entertainment, his business empire, his cultural relevance, they all hang in the balance. Regardless of how the case concludes, the damage is done. Allegations like this don't fade, they redefine how someone is remembered. Cassie's refusal to back down has become the most unexpected challenge Diddy has ever faced. What started as a lawsuit has evolved into a symbol of a broader reckoning. The trial is no longer about two people. It's about a culture that has protected power at the expense of truth. For decades, Hollywood has been plagued by whispers, survivors, silenced by non-disclosure agreements, legal threats, and the fear of career destruction. Cassie is breaking that cycle. Her decision to speak up has transformed a private pain into a public movement, putting an entire industry under the microscope. At its core, this case is not just about personal grievances, it's about systemic rot. Celebrity culture has long rewarded wealth and charisma while ignoring warning signs. But Cassie's story forces an uncomfortable confrontation with the darker side of fame. The term freak-offs, allegedly describing coerced or manipulated sexual acts, exposes a deeply troubling power dynamic, one where consent becomes murky under pressure and influence. It's more than one relationship gone wrong. It's a symptom of a culture that's allowed manipulation and abuse to fester beneath the surface of glitz and glamour. Cassie's case sits right at the crossroads of accountability and fame, dragging long-buried practices into the light, and she's not alone. This legal fight exists in a post-Weinstein, post-Me Too era, an environment where survivors are speaking up, where power no longer guarantees silence, and where the public is far less forgiving. When R. Kelly fell, it wasn't because of one allegation, it was the tidal wave that followed. If more women step forward in Diddy's case, the result could be just as seismic. Even as these revelations unfold, the machinery of the entertainment industry keeps spinning. Control, image management, and quiet payouts remain part of the playbook. But Cassie's boldness is testing that formula. Her claims suggest Diddy employed all the familiar tools, legal pressure, fear tactics, hush money, to maintain his image. But now, that armor is cracking. Her stand is resonating because it signals something deeper, a breaking point. If a figure as powerful as Diddy can be brought to the brink, then perhaps the structures that protect abusers can be dismantled too. That's the real shift. When one person's story forces a cultural recalibration, what happens next will set the tone for more than just Diddy's future. If the case expands, if more evidence emerges, if other survivors speak up, it could trigger a wave of accountability across the industry. And if Cassie's courage becomes a catalyst for change, this case could be remembered not only for who was exposed, but for what it exposed about the system itself. What's especially telling is how public opinion is already shaping the outcome. Gone are the days when silence could be bought or buried. Social media has leveled the playing field. Now, survivors don't need the approval of studios or the backing of major networks. They have the internet, where their voices can travel globally in seconds. If this trial ends with accountability, if someone like Diddy is publicly held responsible, it could send a message that even the most powerful aren't above consequence. That legacy, no matter how grand, can't survive. Unchecked abuse forever. Cassie's fight may have started with one lawsuit, but where it's headed has the potential to reshape an entire industry. Hollywood loves to project the image of progress, celebrating diversity on red carpets, delivering powerful speeches about justice and change from award show podiums. But real transformation doesn't come from PR campaigns or viral hashtags. It comes when someone dares to disrupt the illusion. That's exactly what Cassie's lawsuit is doing, forcing the entertainment industry to confront truths it's long buried beneath glamour and applause. This case is not just about one woman naming her abuser. It's about dismantling a system that has, for decades, protected the powerful while silencing the vulnerable. Cassie is challenging the very infrastructure of Hollywood, a place where silence has often been the currency of survival, and influence has been used as a shield against consequence. Her fight represents a fracture in that long-standing dynamic. We're not looking at just another celebrity controversy. This is a potential inflection point, one that could force the industry to reevaluate how it deals with its most iconic and untouchable figures. As more eyes turn toward the courtroom and social media continues to magnify each revelation, the pressure on Hollywood to actually live up to its rhetoric grows heavier by the day. The trial is still in motion, and the final outcome remains unknown, but the ripple effect is already being felt. Whether the result is a settlement, a public reckoning, or further legal escalation, this case has pierced through the protective bubble that often surrounds elite figures. And that, in itself, is monumental. Cassie's courage is doing more than holding Diddy accountable. It's shaking the foundations of an entire culture built on reputation management, legal shielding, and whispered threats. By refusing to be silenced, she's igniting a much-needed conversation about who gets to operate unchecked in Hollywood and why that's no longer acceptable. What makes this so significant is the broader message it sends. In this evolving cultural landscape, wealth and fame are no longer impenetrable armor. The old playbook, deny, delay, distract, is starting to fail. People are watching, speaking out, and refusing to let the cycle continue. As this story unfolds, one question lingers. Will this be the moment that finally cracks the decades-old structure of silence and complicity? Or will the industry find new ways to protect its own? For now, one thing is certain. Cassie's case has forced Hollywood to look in the mirror, and that reflection is impossible to ignore. The truth is surfacing, and if it continues to rise, it could do more than expose one man. It could change the rules of power in an industry long overdue for accountability.